Today, we're once again going to be taking a look at 10 Minecraft mod combinations that work perfectly together. And these combinations are going to range everywhere from useful to beautiful to terrifying, and ideally, you'll find most of these combinations to be quite interesting. And just like always, if you'd like to download anything you see in this video, I'll include it in the description below. And anyways, let's go ahead and get into the video. Alright, so this first combination of mods is going to allow you to run your game at a render distance that you've pretty much never seen before, unless you're running a mod such as Distant Horizons, which adds LODs to the game. Render distances like this are just impossible. And mods like Distant Horizons are pretty amazing, except for a key flaw in that you can't really pay specific attention to faraway details. If you do so, you'll very quickly notice just how much less detail there is, but with this combination of mods, that doesn't really exist. So first, you're going to need to install Sodium and Nvidium, and these mods in unison are on their own going to give you some absolutely unbelievable performance, but that's not what we're here for right now. However, Nvidium does already partially provide the functionality we're looking for, in that it'll actually keep chunks generated when you move away from them, so in that particular situation, you can have a very long render distance. However, it's not going to generate any new chunks on its own, so we've got to add a couple other mods. And this is where the mod Bobby comes into play, and normally this mod's main use is making it so when you're playing on a server, you can actually run at a higher render distance than the server inherently has, but for this particular case, we're actually going to be using this mod to increase the total render distance that you can use in Sodium. So just head to the mod settings for Bobby and set max render distance to really whatever you'd like. And you're also going to want to set single player server view distance to this same number. However, there's a key problem here, in that it won't let you go above 32. But if you open up the config file and just manually set it to the number you'd like, you can get around this. And at this point, you should be able to set your game's render distance to the number you selected before. However, I noticed my render distance didn't actually seem to increase. And this is where we'll be installing the final mod for this combination, and this is the C2ME mod. With this mod installed, all the previous steps we've taken will immediately start to work. And just like that, you can play some absolutely incredible render distances with better performance than you would probably expect. For our next combination, we're going to be installing a couple mods that are quite different. However, they do something together that I really appreciate. And the first of these mods is the StepItUp mod, which allows you to walk up blocks kind of like a horse can. And don't confuse this with auto jump. You're not jumping up the blocks, you're literally walking straight up them. There is one problem with this mod though, and it's especially noticeable in third person, and that's when you're walking up a pretty steep incline such as a mountain, it's going to be pretty jarring. You're going to give yourself whiplash with how much your camera's bouncing. But once we install Leawind's third person perspective, this is immediately going to be fixed. And that's because this mod makes it so the camera follows you smoothly. Rather than immediately and aggressively snapping into position, it's going to be a smooth and beautiful journey all the way to the top. Next, I have a combination for those of you that are just explorers at heart. If you're constantly on the move, sleeping in new locations, you're going to love these two mods. And the first is Sleep Overhaul 2. And what this mod does is makes it so rather than the night just immediately skipping, it'll actually simulate the entire night, and it'll do this while showing a really cool time lapse. And with this mod, I've installed Comforts, which allows you to use sleeping bags, which are just temporary beds that automatically place and remove themselves from the ground. In other words, a really great way to just sleep quickly and move on to the next location. And combined with Sleep Overhaul 2, each night you're going to get a really cool view of the surrounding area. I did notice one problem with this combination, however, and that's the fact that Sleep Overhaul 2 seems to block the usage of hammocks entirely, which allows you to skip the day. So if that specific functionality isn't something you want to lose out on, then unfortunately, as of now, you're not going to be able to use this combo. For our next combination, I'm going to be focusing on a couple mods that make creepers quite a bit more terrifying. And the first of these mods is Stalker Creepers, which is going to make it so creepers will only detonate once you notice them. So they'll follow you all day long, but once you look at them, that's when they're going to blow up. And I suppose this makes them a little less dangerous, as they're not going to blow up behind your back, but it does make them a little more jump scary. And the mod we'll be installing in addition to this is Farsighted Mobs, which naturally makes it so mobs can see you from much farther away, and this will apply to creepers. So with this combination of mods, you're going to suddenly have assassin creepers coming at you from very far away and scaring you constantly. After that, we'll be installing a couple mods that make your world very snowy, and the first of these two is Primal Winter. With this mod installed, every single biome is going to be covered in snow regardless of its temperature, and it doesn't stop there. All the blocks even have snowy variants as well. Plus, it never stops snowing, and it's going to feel like you're in an unending ice age or something. And on top of that, we'll be installing Physics Mod Pro specifically for its snow physics. And Physics Mod Snow is a ton of fun to interact with, and when you have Primal Winter installed, there's going to be a lot of snow. And this is a combination I've kind of centered my Winter Paradise video around, so if it interests you any further, you should check that one out. Next up, we'll actually be using a couple of resource packs, so you should be able to use this pretty much anywhere, even on a server. And the first of these resource packs is Fresh Animations, which adds some pretty awesome animations to pretty much all the creatures in your game. But the one creature that noticeably isn't affected is yourself. And this is where we'll be installing the Player Animations resource pack. And just like that, you'll actually be able to fit into this world of creatures that have updated animations. And by the way, you can't actually find player animations combinations in a typical location, you're gonna have to join Traben's modding server on Discord and head to the FAQ, and at that point you should be able to find a link that'll bring you to the download. Now, the next combination of mods is gonna focus on making caves a little more exciting, and one of these mods is pretty significant, whereas the other is just gonna boost the ambience a little bit. And starting with the smaller mod, which is smaller by comparison, is Spelunker's Charm 2. And among other features, this mod adds earthquakes to the game, which are honestly pretty scary to be a part of. Don't worry though, this mod doesn't add any cave-ins or anything like that. You don't need to worry about getting buried alive or something. At most, you'll notice some stalactites falling. But regardless of this mod still does a pretty great job of making your game feel pretty ominous when exploring underground. And in addition to this, I've installed Alex's Caves, which is one of the biggest mods that's been released in a very long time, adding 5 completely unique and content-filled biomes to the game. And this mod on its own already has some pretty awesome ambience, but combined with Spelunker's Charm, that only gets better. And I mean, some of these caves are so big that you'll sometimes forget you're even in a cave, and Spelunker's Charm will be a good reminder that you are in fact still underground. Focusing on the end, the next combination of mods is going to make the end better in pretty much every way imaginable. And the first of these mods is BetterEnd, which I have covered a fair amount on my channel because it really is a pretty awesome mod. It makes exploring the end actually worthwhile other than hunting for a few ships. And the other mod we'll be installing, which also makes some pretty significant changes to the end, is Nullscape. And this mod on its own, it makes the end far more vertical. So rather than just a flat sheet expanding into infinity, there'll actually be multiple levels to it. And again, these mods on their own are pretty amazing, but when combined, they make the end just downright incredible. The biomes connect in all kinds of interesting ways. You can drop 100 blocks from one of them to another, and then you can do it again. And if you want to make this combination look just beyond amazing, try it with a bunch of different shaders. A lot of shaders definitely take some creative liberty when it comes to what the end looks like, and many of them will yield some seriously impressive results. Now, one of the last combinations we'll be doing is going to focus on making first-person combat much more immersive, and let me just tell you, this one is not for the faint of heart. If you're prone to motion sickness or something, I'm just warning you now, this might get a little intense. And the first mod I've installed is Real Camera, and this is one of the most interesting first-person camera mods because not only can you see your own character while in first-person mode, but you can also bind your camera to different parts of your body, and however that specific body part moves, the camera's gonna copy that exactly. So, in addition to this, I've installed the Better Combat mod, and on its own, this mod noticeably completely changes how your character moves, so when you combine it with Real Camera, you are going to feel every single strike you make with a weapon. And if you want to make this ordeal even more intense, you can install Camera Overhaul, and this mod will add some camera tilting and rotation depending on your movement. And with all these mods installed, combat is just going to be downright intense. And I imagine this combination overall is going to be one you either love or really hate. And finally, for our last combination, in case you're looking to incorporate some extreme anxiety into Minecraft, we're going to be starting with Cave Dweller. And I'm sure many of you have seen this mod. It adds this freak of nature that chases you endlessly until you probably end up dead, and you know, on its own, it's already alarming enough to be chased by. But in addition to this mod, we're going to be using sound physics, which makes it so sounds echo inside of caves. And trust me, when you hear the cave dweller echoing off the walls, there's just something about it that just makes it that much more terrifying. I mean, regular mobs are almost terrifying when you have sound physics installed. And again, if you want to make this combination even better, add something that reduces the light level. Here I'm using Rethinking Voxels with the light level turned all the way down, and immediately the atmosphere is just a whole different level. And that is going to do it for this video. Let me know what you thought about the combinations, and if there's any other mods you think would work very well together, let me know in the comments below. And like I said before, if you'd like to download anything in this video, you can find it in the description. And anyways, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and until next time, thanks for watching.